Hey everyone, Justin here. Once again, Tame Type 1. Today, I'm just on a bit of a roll here with the ranting. Let's talk about something a little bit personal, a little bit gritty. Let's go over 3 ways doctors can destroy diabetic children. And I mean destroy in the absolute sense. Not like destroyed, like, oh, I destroyed this person with my arguments. No, like destroy, like fundamentally irreparable damage to them. Um, let's get into it. Let's get into it. And you think, before I even start, am I saying all doctors are bad people? No. I just think doctors are not immune from being human and having incentives and not having the best information and, sort of putting themselves first rather than others. It happens. It happens to the best of us, right? But that's just the facts. And I'm just going to give you a few examples from my own personal life and from what I've seen from other people about how doctors can ruin type 1 diabetics. I'll give you 3. The first thing, of course, that happens is that doctors give them the wrong information. This is absolutely critically, it's totally the norm. If doctors gave kids the best information, then a lot of them wouldn't even need, to bolus for their meals. Do you believe that? Check out my video on the honeymoon and what the implications are for that to know more. If doctors gave kids good information, there'd be a lot less misery when it comes to being type 1 because it'd be much more manageable for most people. But that's not what happens. Instead, doctors give kids information that they think is easy, or they think is accessible, or maybe they just don't know any better. Maybe they just think, well, this is the approach that's recommended. We're going to give it no matter what it does. They'll tell kids stuff like, oh, just eat whatever, as many carbs you want, take insulin for it, let your pump do the work for you. You have this tandem basal IQ. Great, except they eat some waffles and the blood sugar still goes to 400. Whoops. Whoopsie. Oh, I didn't tandem IQ that one, huh? They don't even tell them to avoid carbs necessarily. They don't even tell them to cut out the bread or anything like that. They don't give them any sort of real approach to managing low carb, even if they did. And so you're setting the kids up to failure. You're setting kids up to lose. And this is what happened to me. I was told when I was younger, okay, Justin, don't you worry about it. You're going to be totally normal. Just take insulin for whatever carbs you eat. You don't have to change what you eat at all. You can eat normally. Just take insulin for it and you'll be just fine. Well, I wasn't just fine. In fact, I wasn't just fine at all. My blood sugar would be going crazy all the time, as it probably did with you as well if you ever were tricked into that hard carb approach. And it's a trick, it's a scam. Telling diabetics that they should eat tons of carbs and take tons of insulin is a scam, a dirty, rotten trick, and it kills them. It's literally killing kids. Right there, number one, they need to give them the best information, and they don't. A lot of them might even know the information, and they refuse to provide because they think either it doesn't work, or it's not sustainable, or even if I tell them it's not going to make any difference. That's a lot of blood on their hands, right there. Just that number one thing. But it gets even worse. It gets even worse. Think about this. Let's say you're a child, like many of us were when we became diabetic, and you're told, eat whatever you want, take insulin for it, and you do. Because of course, if your doctor tells you to eat whatever you want, why would you not? I just got a free ticket to eat whatever I want. It's like a golden ticket from Willy Wonka, baby. Cashing it in. And you keep eating normal. And your blood sugars are going insane all the time, predictably, all over the place. And you have no control of your diabetes. Now, what happens when you go back to the doctor? Is he going to be happy with you? You can go one of 2 ways, and this is the other 2 ways that doctors can ruin kids. The first is that maybe a doctor actually does care about a child's blood sugars, and they want them to improve. But instead of giving them good advice, what they resort to is shaming. They notice maybe the kid isn't taking their blood sugar enough times a day. Why aren't you taking your blood sugar more? Why aren't you correcting your highs more? If you don't take your blood sugar, your blood sugar is going to be high. This happened to me quite a lot when I was a kid. But they never really asked me, they never, I was too young to really explain why I didn't take my blood sugar so much. The truth is, I didn't like taking my blood sugar because it was always high. Because I knew if I took my blood sugar, I would be embarrassed by the result. I would be devastated by the result, and it'd be something I have to fix all the time, no matter what. How devastating is it that you try so hard to manage your diabetes using the advice that they give you? That's terrible, but you try it anyways, and it doesn't work. And you have to check your blood sugar, and you get a constant reminder on this little monitor, on your pump, or whatever it is, that what you're doing isn't working. You know what that does to a kid? It affects them very psychologically. And then on top of that, they get shamed on by the doctor for not taking their blood sugar up. Well, you know what? Maybe I'd take my blood sugar more if my blood sugar wasn't insanely bad all the time. Think about that. So that's one thing that might happen. You might get shamed, and I don't believe in shaming. Not kids, at least. I don't believe in shaming children. I believe we should uplift children, not bring them down. That's what this kind of thing does. And, maybe it comes from a place of caring. I'm not warranting that out. But certainly, this can ruin kids. It makes them feel like worthless, like they can't do anything right. And it leads to depression, it leads to suicide. You know many kids, they just let themselves go super low overnight and die on purpose. On purpose, not an accident, on purpose. Happens all the time. And it's because of things like this. Now I can go another way too, because I think doctors are aware of the adverse consequences of trying to shame their diabetic patients, their kids, into managing their diabetes right. The third way that they end up ruining their kids is by licentiousness, by being a little bit too permissive. Because what will happen, and I've seen this, maybe this is more common now, but what I saw later in life growing up when I became like in my teens, I had different doctors who were a little bit nicer. And they will never give me good information, mind you. They will never give me the proper advice that I and Dr. Bernstein and others will say. But instead what they'll do is they'll just let it go. Oh, your blood sugar's crazy. Oh, don't worry about it. Your A1C is 9. Hey, don't worry about it. I saw a teenager the other day with an A1C of 13. That was a real conversation, a real quote from a doctor that I got when I was a teenager. Oh, your A1C is not that bad. Yeah, it's a little bit high. It's a little bit above normal. It's above the goal that we have, but it could be so much worse. So you just keep on trucking. Wow, how encouraging. I can just keep on trucking like this and it's not going to be a problem? That's called lying. That's what that is. That's a lie. That's just a bold-faced lie. And okay, great. You're making me feel a bit more comfortable with the fact that my blood sugar is insanely high. But, whether I'm comfortable with it or not, it's still affecting my body in a really big way. It's still causing damage all over the place. So it's not a solution. In fact, it's just enabling bad behavior, right? Because you're telling kids, don't worry about it. You don't need to change anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's okay. But that's not a solution. You're not actually helping them or giving them good advice. It's like telling an alcoholic, hey, don't worry about it. Just keep drinking. They're going to kill themselves. Slowly but surely. It's the same thing with diabetics. You can't just tell them that an A1C of 9 or 10 or whatever it is acceptable, because it's not acceptable. You have to do better. Now, you still want to be gentle, patient, and you want to have some give and understand their situation, right? But to just have this sort of permissiveness of, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it, and not give any good advice to stop it, what a disaster. What an absolute disaster. And so I've seen all three of these in my childhood. The bad advice, the berating, the shaming, and the permissiveness that sort of might relax you for a little bit, but ultimately doesn't save your life at all. In fact, you're just going to go further down the pit because now you think it's okay. So, what should doctors do different? Again, I don't want to leave it on a bad note, right? What could doctors do different instead of these three things that are destroying kids? Well, first off, give them good information. If doctors gave them the right information from the start, then they could honestly stop type 1 diabetes in its tracks. And I mean that kind of literally, because there are so many studies, there's so many cases, and I go over this in my video on honeymoon. I've gone on this before in like my video on PKD. And I've even interviewed someone like this, where they start on a very low carb Bernstein-esque approach very, very early on after the diagnosis. When they're still in that honeymoon phase, and they still have some basal activity, they're not all dead yet. There is a window there. And they're able to extend that honeymoon forever and need less insulin, maybe just need basal and not even need bolus. And imagine how much easier diabetes is to manage if you don't need to bolus for your meals. What? It's unthinkable for me because I've been doing it this way forever. All my basals have long since gone. A lot of our diabetics could have it that way if they're given the right information. And it could just be so much easier for everyone involved, except maybe the pharmaceutical companies. But I digress. Second thing is if someone's not able to follow on track, if they're not able to follow the advice or they're just not doing so well, hey, don't shame them, but don't necessarily be permissive of it either. Just be reasonable. Reason through with them. You can reason with children. They're not totally stupid. They're smarter than you think. You can reason through things and explain things without like scaring them or shaming them or bullying them or just saying, oh, screw it, just do whatever you want. It takes effort, but it can't be done. It can be done. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is, educating the parents, educating the kids, and also just, going through reason and logic rather than reactivity, rather than trying to sort of shame a kid into something. I'll leave it at that. I think it's an interesting topic. Rant over for now. Hey, this wasn't a very educational video, I'll admit, but I think it's something we all can relate to in our personal lives. I mean, how many of you have gone through the kind of things that I just described, right? Comment below if you have. Give us a story. It's good to talk about this kind of thing. It's good to flesh it out and sort of think of what an ideal world would look like. But I'll leave it at that. Y'all keep taming your type 1. Have a great rest of your day.